Thank you, and welcome to Town Hall. As you know, we're here tonight to talk about the Community Choice Aggregation Program that the town has recently launched. It's been a little bit of a long road to get here, starting the process of discussion back in December of 2015, going through an approval process in the spring of 2016, culminating in town meeting, approving moving forward with community choice aggregation, going through a series of state approval processes, and then finally going out to bid this spring, and now starting the actual aggregation this August. So we've been trying to reach out via various media, online, in person as we're here tonight. Most of you probably received the phone call we sent on Monday. You've also probably received something in the mail in regards to this. We're doing an in-person meeting here. We're doing a series of in-person meetings at the Senior Center in July, and we'll also be doing outreach on ACMI, trying to inform people as best possible about this aggregation program. So tonight we have representatives from Good Energy, the broker who worked with us to get this competitive electricity supply contract. We have a representative from Mass Energy who's going to talk about the renewable energy credits that are part of this aggregation. And then we also have someone from Sustainable Energy Advantage who's going to talk about the renewable energy aspect of this aggregation. So to start, I'm going to introduce John O'Rourke from Good Energy, who's going to walk through the details of the program. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Adam. Can everybody hear me without the mic? No. All right, essentially is what Adam said was that they've been working on this. The municipal officials here in Arlington have been working on this for a while. This program is approved by the Department of Energy Resources and the Department of Public Utilities, and also has been vetted by your Board of Selectmen. This has been a long road. Again, the approval process is strict and comprehensive. And essentially, I'm going to go over very briefly the whole reason why aggregation came into effect back 20 years ago now here in Massachusetts. Massachusetts was the first state to pass a municipal aggregation law. It was written by Stan Rosenberg, who is the Senate president at this time. Every law that's been written since in the United States for municipal aggregation has been modeled on the Massachusetts law. Two reasons why the law is written the way it is. First of all, it goes through the town government, and it's for the residents and businesses in the town. The reason it goes through the town government is when they put the bill together, the rationale was that the town government was the best organizing body within the town. So that's why it goes through town government, but it's for the residents. The second characteristic of the bill, which is very important, is that it's an opt-out program. What that essentially means is that everybody who is a customer on basic service with Eversource is automatically put into the program unless they opt out. Again, that's the way the law is written, and every other law in the country is modeled on that. The reason why you have high volatility here in Massachusetts is because, as some people say, there is a shortage of natural gas coming into Massachusetts. The pipeline capacity is not what it should be. And what happens is, especially in the wintertime, those who have gas heat have priority. So that everybody who has gas heat gets the gas first, and the utilities get the gas second. So this causes some problems when there is very cold or very hot weather, okay? The major benefits of the program, they're longer, stable rates for longer terms. There are lower rates over the contract term. What that essentially means is that during the term of the contract and at the end of that contract, you will have gained an advantage. There may be times during the contract where the basic service rate may be a little lower than the contract rate, but overall, we're confident that you'll see savings over the contract. There are more renewable energy options. Here in Arlington, you're very conscious about renewable and green energy, and the plan that Arlington has chosen gives you actually 3 choices of having more green energy: a 5%, a 50%, a 100% plan, or if you don't want any green energy at all, you can just go with what's known as Arlington Basic. Other benefits of the plan is you can opt out of this anytime you want without any termination fees or penalties. You continue to receive a single bill from Eversource. Eversource does all of the servicing just the way they do now. There's only one change on the bill, and that's the name of the supplier. Well, at this point, the question was, are the utilities planning to put more pipelines in for gas? Well, it's not the utilities that own the pipelines. The pipelines are owned by private companies that transport the gas. You may have heard there was a pipeline that was planned for the northern route of Massachusetts, which basically was not passed. There was a lot of opposition to it. So right now, there aren't any more planned pipelines. Okay. Thirdly, this program will discourage some of those unscrupulous marketers, the calls you get, the letters you get. All right. Not all of those programs are bad programs, but a lot of them try to sucker you in with a basic rate, and then that rate goes up 3 or 4 months down the road, and there's usually a pretty heavy termination fee. So that protects you against that as well. This is what the Eversource rates have looked like recently. As you can see there on the right side of the chart, things have been pretty volatile. Again, one of the major objectives of this program is to smooth that up and down volatility out. This is the new bill you get from Eversource. The only change on this bill is on the second page. In that red circle, that's the name of the supplier is changed. Everything else remains the same. And again, Eversource does all of the service on the lines. If you have an outage or you have a problem, you still call Eversource. The only thing that changes is that the supply comes from other than Eversource and comes through the Eversource transmission system. Yeah, can we wait to, there's just a couple more slides and we'll get to questions. Yes, I'll cover that. Yeah. All right, this is the way your program shapes up. Arlington Local Green is the extra 5%. And again, this extra 5% comes from what's known as Massachusetts Class 1 Renewable Energy Certificates. This is very important because when you buy Mass Class 1 RECs, the money that's put into those RECs goes into renewable energy projects here in Massachusetts. There are some towns that advertise 100% renewable. A lot of those cases, they're getting that, quote, renewable energy from somewhere else in the country with very cheap RECs. It doesn't help increase the renewable energy here in Massachusetts, and Erin will be talking about that more later. You have Arlington Premium 50% Local Green. That's 50% of the energy you get will be from Massachusetts Class 1 RECs. Again, to get into that program, you call Dynergy. They're the supplier. Same thing with 100%. And the same thing, if you want Arlington Basic, which doesn't have any more renewable energy than is required now by Massachusetts, you would also call Dynergy. If for some reason you don't want to be involved in this program, you want to stay with Eversource, you just mail in the opt-out card. So essentially, if you want the standard product, there's no action required. If you want any of the other products, you have to either call Dynergy or you have to mail in the opt-out card. This program is a 28-month program. It starts on the meter read date in August and goes for 28 months. It's fixed for 28 months. The renewable portion of that goes for 18 months because the 18-month price for renewable on those RECs was better than the 28-month. So we decided to go with the 18 months first, and then after 18 months, we'll reevaluate those RECs, and we're not expecting a big difference between the RECs that we got for the initial term and what we will have to get for the renewal term for those RECs, okay? And that only affects you if you're in one of the green, one of the local green products. This is my contact information. If you have any questions, that's my cell phone. Please call me directly, and I'll be glad to answer those questions. If you have already decided on another supplier, if you went with one of the programs that's offered out there, you will not be contacted about this program. If after your contract is over with that third-party supplier and you want to get into this program, you can do that. I got a question from one of your residents about solar panels. If you have put solar panels on your house or on your property, and you have a contract, a deal with Eversource, this doesn't affect that at all, okay? You will continue to have whatever deal you made with Eversource, and this will be on the side. So, totally separate. Go ahead. Sure, go ahead. When does your contract with Dominion end? Okay. We don't encourage anybody to get out of a contract they're already in, okay? When that contract ends, you can come into the aggregation if you want. What will happen at the end of your Dominion contract, you will, for a short period of time, go back to the Eversource basic rate. You will get a letter from us or the supplier that'll say, you can come into the program. And at that point in time, you can make a choice to come into the program. Okay? Yes, sir.
When you say 550 or 100% renewable, is that over the course of the year or at any time?
That's all the electric you receive while you're on that program.
So over some period of time, when some are recognized. I assume some that's higher and that's lower.
What happens with, and you can probably, I'll wait for Erin to answer that question. You will have 50% if you go into the 50% program for the whole of the contract term that you're in it.
And if I produce, so now, if I'm producing almost all of my electricity during the year, then it really doesn't matter which of these places I pick.
If you're producing more solar than you need, it doesn't really matter which one of these programs you get into. Yeah. Yeah.
When it says 50%, what's the other 50%? Is that from renewables outside the country, or is it from non-renewables?
It's from non-renewables.
Okay, so if I have Viridian right now, I'm getting there. Now this is just the supplier part, right?
That's the supplier part.
So that's 0.11590 for me. So that's, can we go back to the slide with the prices? Yeah. So I paid similar to what your 50% is. If I go your 100%, and I'm having 100% win from them. So that's a little bit cheaper than what this is for 100%.
Okay. Now, this is, again, this is Class 1. This is Massachusetts Class 1 RECs. I don't know what your mix of green is for Viridian. They may have some Texas wind in there. They may have other things in there that don't help increase renewables here in Massachusetts. And again, okay, Erin's the expert on that. I'm gonna let her answer that in greater detail. Yeah.
The state already mandates 12%. So, as somewhere around reading that the 5% there would be in addition to that, so it's totally.
That's correct.
So then, for the 50, is that 50 plus 12?
Yes, it is.
So that's actually 62, and then the 100 is there.
Right. Right.
But, so it just, it's just, I wanted to just clarify that a bit. And are you talking about rates, or should I hold my question about rates till somebody else? The rates that are listed up there.
Do you have a question on the rates?
Yeah, well, I would just, I mean, having done a little of the math, it just would be over the 5% one, the 50% one looked at, it was about 10% more per kilowatt, and then the 100% is about 22% more. I'm just looking at, as you have said, the rates of Eversource go up and down and up and down and up and down, but I just happened to have looked at my last bill, and believe me, I have no objection to paying more for green stuff, so that's great. But I was just looking, the most recent was per kilowatt, 0.10318, which is still less than that, and then back in January, it was 0.08630. So I'm just kind of wondering where these figures got.
All right, these are. The lady had a couple of questions regarding comparison of Eversource rates with these rates, and again, we're talking about Massachusetts Class 1 RECs that adds to the price, to the basic price here. They are renewable energy certificates, and Erin will explain those in detail.
I was going to say, you keep hearing Rex. I promise you I'll take care of it. Sorry, guys. Yeah, I know. It's a good question.
So I'm going to suggest that we go through just a brief presentation from Erin, because she'll get into some of these renewable energy matters, further presentation from Tom, and then get back to questions. We'll be very brief, but I think some of the questions folks might have may be answered by this, and then we'll get back to Q&A, if everyone's okay with that, if you don't mind.
All right, next up, we have Erin Taylor.
Okay, perfect. No, that's awesome. I love it.
Erin is from Mass Energy Consumers Alliance. They are recognized as the leader in sourcing Massachusetts Class 1 RECs. They've been doing it for a long time, and I'll let Erin go on from there. There you go, Erin.
Thank you. I don't know how to cue my presentation up. I'm scared. Is it behind it? Hooray! That one. Whew. So as mentioned, I'm Erin Taylor from Mass Energy Consumers Alliance. I'm an Arlington resident. I live on Everett Street. You can call me ET. And so this aggregation is going to affect me too. So when I'm up here talking to you about it, I want you to understand that I'm also a resident and I'm with you in this. And I work at Mass Energy because I'm really concerned about climate change and I really care about the environment. I have 2-year-old twins and I want them to enjoy it. So I feel really amazing about this program and I'm really happy to be here talking with you a little bit about it. So you're hearing this word REX. John's presentation was very important to tell you how the aggregation is going to work. He had to mention REX, but I know that was like for the renewable energy part, that was a little bit putting the cart before the horse, so I'm definitely going to go over that with you. And we will both be here, we'll all be here, and Tom knows a lot about REX too, so we'll all be here to answer your questions. So just briefly who we are at Mass Energy and why we're involved. We're a local nonprofit. We were founded in 1982, and we have all kinds of different programs, including green power. We have a green electricity program where you can make the switch to green electricity. Some of you might already be members of New England Wind or New England Green Start. If that sounds familiar to you, that's our program. We do a lot of work with solar. We help people put solar panels on their homes. We promote energy efficiency. We have a discount heating oil program that we also promote energy efficiency through. And we have an electric vehicle program. We do advocacy. So anything related to energy that affects you in your home, we really get involved with. And we have programs that can help you get active around making those choices. So that's how we kind of got involved in this process, because we saw a lot of communities doing this thing called municipal aggregation or community choice aggregation, as Arlington's calling it, and buying 100% renewable energy from out of the New England region and having it add like 1/10 of a penny to the cost of their aggregation per kilowatt hour, which is really nothing. And so all this money was sort of adding up and it was going out of our region and it wasn't actually helping to fund renewable energy development. So I'm going to talk to you about that. And that's why Arlington has been so diligent in choosing Class 1 RECs, and Mass Energy got involved in this process because we wanted to help more communities make that choice. And making that choice to buy Class 1 renewable energy to a smaller extent, even though it's more, you buy a little bit less because it's more expensive. So buying it to a smaller extent is something that has been embraced by the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, along with many other environmental groups that have supported this, including Mothers Out Front, who's in the room today and is in the back. If you want to talk to them about opting up, they're more than happy to help you do it, give you a reminder email, stuff like that. So first I want to go step back and talk about the state law. The state has a law called the Renewable Portfolio Standard. This Renewable Portfolio Standard is an optional thing that states can have. Mississippi doesn't have one. I lived in Mississippi for a while, very disappointing, but not surprising. Massachusetts does have one. We have an amazing Renewable Portfolio Standard, and it's a law that requires all electricity suppliers, such as Eversource, if you're on basic service, or Dynegy, our new supplier, or Dominion, or Viridian, anybody who says to you, hey, I can go out and purchase your electrons on your behalf, which shows up in the supply section of your bill, anybody who can do that for you has to, by law, source 12% of it from renewable energy. Not just any renewable energy, but what's called Class 1 renewable energy, which we're going to get into in a second. The percentage goes up 1% every year. So next year is going to be 13%, the year after is going to be 14%. It happens automatically, and that will work in tandem with our aggregation. Right now we'll have 17% in our Arlington Local Green default product that you will be enrolled in unless you opt out. Next year it'll be 18%. So that's really lovely. We do want it to double and be a little higher. We want to go up by 2% each year, but we're working on it. We'll get there. For now, this is really good. So what does this law mean? First of all, how do electricity suppliers even buy renewable energy? When electrons go onto the grid, how does anybody buy it? when electrons go onto the grid, there's no way to say, send them to John's house, please. Send them to Adam's house. You can't do that if the wind turbine's in Medford. You can't say, Adam wants that renewable energy, send it to him. Because the electrons do what they're going to do. It's physics. They go where they're going to go. So in the 90s, this national market mechanism was created called Renewable Energy Certificates. Every time a wind turbine or a solar panel is doing its thing generating electricity, every time it produces 1 megawatt hour of electricity that goes onto the grid, that's recorded in a certificate. It's written down the emissions, the source, the emissions reductions, everything about it, the location of the source, everything about it is recorded. And that record of those electrons now has value because you can buy the record that says there are electrons on the grid and you can say those electrons are mine. So by buying the rec, you get to claim those electrons, even though they might not necessarily go to your house. Seems convoluted, but what has it done? It's created an additional funding stream for renewable energy. So now a developer, when they're looking to go to the bank for a loan, they can sell their electrons, contract to sell their electrons, and they can contract to sell their RECs separately. So in some states, RECs don't really fetch a very good price. They're not really needed. Developers don't really need that source of revenue. Think about Texas. Texas has a large expanse of space where it can put up giant fields of big wind turbines. These wind turbines can produce a lot of electricity that can help pay back the developer very quickly. So the rec sales don't really matter to that developer. They're already making money without selling them. This is the same in a lot of states around the country, and in fact, we're really only sure the national rec market has been evaluated as generally impotent, except in New England. So New England recs have value, and a lot of it has to do with this law in Massachusetts, and the other New England states also have some pretty good laws. So this law basically says, suppliers, you have to buy 12% renewable energy. It has to be from Class 1 renewable energy certificates. So on behalf of you and you and you and you, Eversource or your supplier Dominion or whoever is buying 12%, and they do that by purchasing RECs. So Class 1 is defined as solar, wind, small hydro, digester gas, or geothermal on the New England power grid, the 6 states of New England, and it's been built since 1997. So restricting it to these particular projects has actually helped make the rec prices be higher than they are in the rest of the country. So developers can get a good price for their recs. They can sell, as opposed to Texas recs, for example, which are sold for like 1/10 of a penny per rec. Recs around here go from $20 to $50, and solar recs in Massachusetts go for hundreds of dollars. So this is really a huge source of financing for renewable energy developers. If you've put solar on your house, you may understand this because you probably sell your SRECs to help you yourself finance your solar panels. So developers do this too. But when you sell those RECs, whoever buys them gets to claim the carbon reduction and gets to claim that they are using that renewable energy. So that's what Arlington's supplier is doing on your behalf, is buying 5% more. So you can claim your 17% powered. So not all RECs are created equal. I just sort of talked about that. This is hard to see, and I apologize for that. But basically what we're looking at is an old New England hydro project, for example, something from Maine that maybe was built in the 1950s or has been running for much longer than that. We have a non-New England wind project, which is most other states outside of New England, and we have a New England wind project. So you can see here, the red bar is, for each of them, is the cost to develop. The blue part of the second bar is how much money they make back because of tax credits, state incentives, and selling their electrons over time. And then the green is the rec sales. So as you can see in these cases where the facilities are existing and the RECs are not categorized as class 1, the REC revenue, one, it's not very much. RECs go very cheaply. And two, they don't make a difference in whether or not the decision to build that renewable energy facility was made. Whereas in New England, it's totally sell your RECs or don't build. So what Arlington has done by including class 1 renewable energy is huge, and it's way better than adding 100% wind from national sources versus the local sources. And that's not even mentioning the benefits of developing local renewable energy, which are wonderful. We are seeing a lot of jobs created by renewable energy development here in Massachusetts, over 70,000 so far. The sources that we buy from currently are here on the map. They are here in New England. Most of them are in Massachusetts. Because of this aggregation program, we are looking to buy from even more sources, which means we can send more funding to renewable energy and help bring more onto the grid. That means actual displacement of the need for fossil-fueled energy on our grid, which is awesome. So that's what Arlington is helping to do with this program. Mass Audubon Society, which is one of our biggest partners, is a really big fan of this method. They buy wind power for all of their sanctuaries, whatever they don't produce with their solar panels, because if you do solar, you know that sometimes you owe the utility money, and sometimes you produce enough power that you don't owe the utility money. Whenever you owe the utility money, that's grid power. You're pulling off the grid. So you have to pay for that. So Mass and Audubon is greening that up. Whenever they have to pay for their electricity, they're greening it up, making sure it comes from wind, because they know that wind power kills far less birds than climate change. So we're really proud that Mass Audubon has been a big, huge partner and supporter of ours. You already saw this, so just here it is again. What you've got to do in each of these cases. So to go back to a question earlier about comparing the rates, why somebody can get 100% for cheaper. The Eversource rate you were speaking about is actually about to end. It's about to change to what you see up there at the bottom, 107.59. So by the time our aggregation starts, our basic rate is actually a little bit cheaper. It's not much, saves you like 2 cents a month, but it's still awesome, and you get more class 1 renewable energy. So if you want to opt up, as we mentioned, call Dynegy, 100% or 50%. Yes, they are a little more expensive than you might hear a competitive supplier offering for green electricity, but that's because they are the good RECs. There's a lot more of the good RECs in there, and the price difference between the two is humongous. So if you really want to support the good stuff, you do have to pay a little bit more. But these rates are really good. I mean, we've seen Eversource's rates be 17 cents a kilowatt hour with all brown, mostly brown power, 10% renewables. So these are good rates. And those of you who may already be paying additional for renewable energy through Mass Energy or another program, these rates are better than probably what you're paying now for the class 1 in Mass Energy's product. So Mass Energy is recommending that you do this. If you're already doing it with us, you switch to this. So the impact of this on a whole scale, it's about 5,500 megawatt hours per year, with everybody on 5% of renewable energy supported, helped to bring onto the grid, literally change. So that's the equivalent of a wind turbine and a half. And that's what Arlington's doing every year through this program. We think it's wonderful. So I know I've probably stirred up a lot of questions and reactions, and I'm happy to answer questions at the end. But for now, unless somebody's totally in the dark right now, I think maybe we should go on to Tom. Anybody totally? I understand. Awesome. Thank you so much.
John, you can help me with this too. So I'm Tom Michelman. I also live on Everett Street. And I don't think I've seen it. Yeah, woo, Everett Street. And I work for Sustainable Energy Advantage. and we are a renewable energy policy and market consulting firm. Obviously, I'm a Arlington resident. I'm also a town meeting member. Sure, that works a lot better, doesn't it? Obviously, I don't do this very often. Okay. So let's try this again. We've got, we've been talking about renewable energy, but what is renewable energy? So we have non-emitting resources, which is wind, solar, hydro, some geothermal, tidal wave, and ocean. We've got emitting renewables, something like landfill methane or anaerobic digestion. We've got non-renewable technologies, which we call oil, fossil fuels, natural gas. And we have there's renewable portfolio standards, and sometimes in those renewable portfolio standards, there are energies that are called renewables, even though you wouldn't usually call them renewables. Natural gas fuel cells is the biggest example because it's considered renewables in Connecticut, and lo and behold, Connecticut has 3 big fuel cell firms. So, what a surprise. So, what's the renewable portfolio standard? It's the requirement on retail electric suppliers. I know this is a repeat, to supply a minimum percentage or amount of the retail load with eligible sources of renewable energy. So these are typically backed by some form of penalty, which they do in Massachusetts. That's about 7 cents a kilowatt hour right now. Often accompanied by renewable energy certificates, which we keep on talking about, RECs, which is what we do in Massachusetts. And never designed the same in any 2 states. So, this Venn diagram up here shows you how different renewable portfolio standards vary by different states. Massachusetts actually has a Mass Class 1, a Mass Class 2, a Mass Class 2 like for burning trash, and an alternative class, and so but we're focused on Mass Class 1. Mass Class 1, as pointed out, is probably the premier, the most difficult one to adhere to. It's got only those renewables which you would think are renewables, like wind, solar, small hydro, tidal wave. Okay. So we're going to go again, what's a REC? So this is really hard concept, so I don't think it's bad to go over it again. It's a tradable certificate, typically in the electronic form, which it is in New England. It is equivalent to the production of 1 megawatt hour from a specific electric generator. It carries descriptive characteristics, for example, what the generator type was and what the actual emissions were. Carries state-approved eligibility for various purposes. For example, in Massachusetts, every REC on it has how much union labor was associated with that megawatt hour. You probably didn't know that. The timing, what year or quarter it was produced in, and the financial responsibility claim. So when you produce a megawatt hour, you actually produce 2 things. You produce the physical energy, and which is the commodity electricity, and you produce this construct, this state-mandated construct, which is a REC. So what a REC is not, it does not inherently include secondary or indirect benefits or impacts of the generation which they represent. For example, it does not inherently include the displaced emissions and the tradable emission commodities. So you can get those commodities in various states, and we're going to say how you can get them in Massachusetts next. And they can be contractually attached to a REC through bilateral negotiation or through a contract. So I'm going to go to the bottom slide. I should have put this bullet point. That notwithstanding the previous slide, in California and the RGGI states, the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative states, including Massachusetts, except for Delaware, a voluntary retirement of REC. So those 5, if you don't do anything, you go with the extra 5%. That extra 5% of the state compliance RECs that you retire is matched by a set-aside of CO2 cap reductions in the RGGI, and is thus considered avoiding greenhouse gas emissions. So if you participate in this program, you can actually claim that you're avoiding greenhouse gases. Conversely, you can't say, because of the way the cap and trade programs work for those pollutants, you can't claim NOx or SOx emission reductions. Okay. So that's a great thing. You can claim greenhouse gas emission reductions. As John pointed out, you've had the opportunity to shop competitively for electric supply since 1997. Now, I was working for a different consulting firm back in 1997, and I studied virtually every retail electric market as they opened up. And I am the poster child of not doing anything. There's about 15% of the state residential customers have actually moved to electric suppliers. Large corporations, it's more like flip it around, 85, 90% have moved to competitive electric suppliers. Now, I know a couple of people here have already said they moved to competitive electric suppliers, which is one more person than we saw when I was in the Winchester. Okay, 1, 2, how many other people? 3. You, 3, yes. So 3 people out of, I'll guess, 30, maybe more. So 10%. I'm not surprised. This means, so now the town, in its combined wisdom, has decided to go to this program and provide a basic green program as your default. So you have to do absolutely nothing to do something good. There are other towns, Brookline, Somerville, Cambridge, Sudbury, Acton will get to it. There's other towns which are also doing this, which also have 5% as a default. Actually, Brookline's default is 25% extra green, which is pretty impressive. But all those households together, they're actually going to make a difference in the market. It actually is going to constrain the supply of RECs and indirectly induce more renewable energy projects. Oh, so I say all this on the next slide. We'll increase the demand of Class 1 RECs. It will decrease the allowance of greenhouse gas emissions. As Aaron said, it will help the regional economy because it's all the power's got to be produced or imported to New England. It has to be new. It has to be post-1997 because that's the way the Class 1 RECs works in Massachusetts. Class 2 are basically the same type of RECs, but pre-1997. And working with Mass Energy, it's going to support local jobs. And this is all multiplied for all the other towns. So again, I recommend you do nothing. Or you call Dynegy and you say, I actually want to do more. I want to do the 50% or the 100%. Thank you very much.
second. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, John. So we'll do some Q&A. I'll play Phil Donahue and walk around with a microphone, and if the speakers want to be up front with the corded mic, we can do that, and I'll also be happy to answer any questions that might come out as well. So, John.
Do you, by any chance, have a graph of the history of the market price for RECs?
No.
Can you talk about the trend or anything like that?
Yes, I can talk about the trend. For a number of, so there's this, how can I describe it? In my presentation, there's something called it, that goes along, the reason there's a price for RECs at all, what happens if an electric supplier doesn't actually deliver those RECs? Well, they actually get penalized. They have to pay what's called an ACP, an alternative compliance payment. That started at $50 in Massachusetts and goes up with a rate of inflation and, 50 cents a megawatt, $50 megawatt hour, or 5 cents a kilowatt hour. That's just talking kilowatt hours. It's now about, with inflation, it's now about, after 20 years, up about 7 cents a kilowatt hour. For a good period of the program, there were not enough RECs. And there was not enough supply in the market. The market had to be primed. And I worked with producers, a wind turbine at commercial, to industrial sites, and I was helping them sell RECs at 6 cents a kilowatt hour. Now there is a lot more renewable energy in the pool, but that RPS requirement is increasing every year. So with that dynamic, and with you're able to bank your RECs for 1 year forward, the prices are down near 2 cents a kilowatt hour. Whether it goes back up or continues to slide down, if we all knew that, I'd be rich. That's what I'd bet on. So.
Thank you. I think, did you have your hand up?
I'm a big climate change guy, and
Speak up.
I'm a big climate change guy, and I've been offered that different from different sources, these credits and this type of energy. But I've always been nervous about the price, how it would affect my bill, and so it is my understanding. It seems like it sounds pretty comparable to what my bill is now. The price of the it's pretty comparable, and but if I ask for a higher percentage of renewable energy, it could increase a little. How much would it increase?
Yeah, I think we actually did the math on that for the average household. The mothers out front did the math on that. Let me grab my flyer, but I think for the average household, going with 50% is something like $5 more per month. $7.
Yeah,
It's $7, and going 100% is more like $14 more per month. That's the average household, which uses around 600 kilowatt hours. So your usage may vary, and it will vary depending on the time of year. So it's really based on your usage. You are going to pay definitely a little bit more than you would if you were on the utilities basic service, or than if you went with the Arlington local green option. If you're willing to do that, that's great. If not, the Arlington local green option is still great. It's got that 5% more, and it's cheaper than what you'd be paying for even less renewable energy with the utility. So if your family thinks that you can afford it, yeah. If your family thinks you can afford to go up, I think that's great. If you can't, like Tom said, do nothing and enjoy the benefits. You're doing more just by doing nothing. So.
It's critical. I want to remind people that it's a critical factor.
It is critical, yeah.
We get into climate change, but I'll tell you.
I'm with you.
So this is good. I thank you all for
I get you. I get Winnell here, and then I'll move around. It's related? Okay.
Thank you, Adam. I understand that the price per I understand the breakdown of the price per kilowatt, but there are a lot of other charges on my Eversource bill having to do with administration and delivery and blah, 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 blah. Will those go up or do they remain the same?
Those will remain the same. They will do exactly what they would have done otherwise. The only thing that will change on your bill is what shows up in the supply section, and that will be Dynegy.
Thank you.
Good question.
Sort of related to that, so this handout from the Mothers Out Front says that there's additional monthly cost, 50% for the 50% renewable, it's $7 and 15 for the 100. Is that what you're talking about, the difference in the kilowatts?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, it's up here. So, if you opt up, you can see, look in the rate column, it does cost a little bit more than if you do nothing. Arlington Local Green is in the top. That's the do nothing option.
Right.
Just hang out and that's what you'll pay. If you opt up, which you have to deliberately do by calling the supplier, you will pay a little bit more, and Mothers Out Front did a good estimate of what that might cost you per month. I will add that Mass Energy, because we're a nonprofit and we're supplying those RECs, that little extra that you pay is tax deductible as a charitable contribution, and we will send you a letter in the mail in January, and you can, if you itemize, you can claim that as a charitable contribution.
And that will come from
Mass Energy, my organization, referencing Dynegy in this aggregation.
I got Steve next. Then I'll come. Go ahead.
Aaron. Okay, Aaron, I have a related question. You had a slide with rates, and one of the columns on the slide was tax credit per kilowatt hour. That was what, is that what you were just referring to a second ago? Okay, thank you.
Yep. The amount that's in part of the price, it's part of the rate, that rate. There's a part of it that is for RECs, and that's the part that will be tax deductible. But we will do all the math for you, and we will send you a letter about it.
I got a question on this REC. It's, let's say everybody in Arlington says, okay, we're going to do 100%. And we now outstrip the amount of solar or wind power, whatever. What happens?
More developers come here.
But
More developers come in, they start building, and they sell to the Class 1 market. The utilities have to look for renewables. I mean, if all of Arlington opted up, I don't know if it would be enough to make that happen. But if everybody did it, I hear what you're saying. The utilities are competing with us, because remember, the utilities and the suppliers have to buy 12% on our behalf. So they'd either have to pay those alternative compliance payments, which go into programs that help bring more renewable energy to the state and boost the supply up. So what it just does is it sends messages to the market and makes developers want to come here and sell those RECs.
But there's a period of time when we would be paying for green and not getting it.
Tom, unclear. I think we have enough renewable energy right now to, if the whole town of Arlington opted up, we'd be fine. But if we were to find ourselves in that situation, it would be awesome. Mass Energy will always supply you with what we promised to supply you. It's the utilities that might run out. And if we couldn't supply you with renewable energy, we wouldn't have entered into this contract.
It was mentioned that those who have solar supply now would not be affected. What about those who are anticipating going solar on their homes? What would be the process? Would we work with Eversource or Dynegy, or how would that work?
You don't have to do anything. Do your solar thing. Do it. By not affected, we mean that if you are currently on basic service, which is in the supply section, putting solar panels on your home will not affect that. So really the only factor that determines whether or not you're automatically enrolled in this program is whether or not when you use electricity from the grid, you're on basic service. So here's what will happen. If you put solar panels on your home, sometimes you're selling power back to the grid because you're not using it. Sometimes you're using power And sometimes you are using power at night when the sun's not shining and you're pulling it from the grid, right? So sometimes the utility's giving you electricity that you got to pay for. And sometimes you're given the utility electricity that you're not using because you're not home at noon and your stuff's not all on. So what they do is they net that out on your electricity bill, and you either get a credit or you owe them a little bit of money for the power you use from the grid. All that happens then is that you'll pay a rate for your supply service for the cost per kilowatt hour that you took from the grid, and it'll be the Arlington local green rate. That's all it means. You don't have to do anything. Do your solar, forget about this. And what it means is when you are drawing power from the grid, it'll have 17% renewable in it instead of just 12. Anyone else want to chime in?
On the Arlington local green, the 5%. Now the 50 and 100% is strictly voluntary. Who came up with the 5%? Is that a standard? Is that something a committee chose, or?
Yeah.
The original program that started with the 5% was done by the city of Melrose. They worked closely with Mass Energy and Metropolitan Area Planning Council, and the 5% number was chosen as a number that was good from the point of view that if everybody or most of the people in a municipality did it, it would have a great impact, but it would also be affordable, and it could still be below the price of basic service. That's the reason why the 5% was picked. Many municipalities want to give their residents other options aside from that 5%. That's where the 50 and 100% came from.
Okay, I understood. Excuse me. So the 50 and 100 is voluntary right now, but is it possible for the municipality to then say, well, let's go to the 50 because it's, you know, it sounds better, whatever, or 100?
So I think you're asking, someday could, instead of just having 5% in what everybody gets, could we have more? That's up to the will of the Arlington people. So if you like this program and if we can cost effectively get you more renewable energy, I say we because I am an Arlington resident and I sit on the energy working group, but Adam is really the one who's done a lot of the work on this. I've just been kind of chatting about it for a while. But if we wanted to, as a community, we can do that.
As a community, but what I'm saying is, can the committee or whatever, or Adam, just decide on their own to change it to 50 or 100%?
So,
do you mean the municipal facilities? Like?
No, I think he meant if, I'll try to answer the question I think you're asking. If during this 28-month term, we can change from 5% being the default to some higher number, between 50, 100, somewhere in between. The answer is no. In our aggregation plan that was approved by the state's Division of Energy Resources and Department of Public Utilities, we stated that our default option would be 5%. So during this 28-month term, we couldn't change it. When this 28-month term is over, there will certainly be another discussion if this program is a success about going out with a further aggregation. So we could then talk about it, but it would have to go through a whole new public process before we would do it.
One more, probably for you. Reading all of the information on the internet, there's one point where it says if you opt out and then want to rejoin. I'm sorry, how's it? Okay, in one part of the information on the internet, it says that if you opt out and want to come back in, you can do that at a point and apply to re-enroll, but you'd end up with taking the average price or the market price. You'd be stuck paying the market price, whatever that might be. Now, in the other one, it says that if you opt out, you cannot come back in until the new contract is being negotiated. And when this contract would expire, and the new one take place, then you could rejoin the co-op. Is that
will
correct?
happen?
Which one is correct?
What will happen? The policy is that you can't come back in. However, we've arranged with the supplier that they will have a choice of taking people back into the program. So it's a better choice than what's written in the policy. So the supplier can bring you back, and they have a choice of bringing you back either at market or at the contract price. Okay. Assuming that not too many people play the game of going in and out, they'll probably bring you in at the contract price. Exactly.
Hi, I have a few questions about Dynegy. My understanding is that in other communities that have similar programs, the electricity supplier was Con Ed Solutions. And it seemed to me that they had a much higher percent of renewables in the default option. And I'm wondering how you came to choose Dynegy.
Which
it's a conflated question. So you have one which is, I'm going to let, because I think I understand the question. One which is, how'd you pick Dynegy? The second question is, there's other communities that have 100%, you know, a higher percent of green.
No, I'm not asking about 100%. I'm asking about the default option. The one that people are put into if they don't do anything.
Are you saying there's a default option which is a higher percentage of green?
Absolutely. If you go to the Good Energy website and look at the energy labels for the electricity suppliers for the other towns, they have much higher renewable in total.
In Massachusetts?
Absolutely.
No, the only town that would be true for would be Brookline.
I was looking at the website today, and all of the South Coast towns have much higher renewable options, you know, through their aggregation programs.
The South Coast towns that we put into the aggregation, we put in 23 towns at one time. They went with a basic no additional green energy, and individuals in the town had an option to talk with Mass Energy if they wanted more. Okay, so that they decided that they have a different set of objectives in that part of the state. Here, closer to Boston and around the metropolitan area planning council communities, they're much more interested in more green. So that's become kind of a hallmark of these programs that are nearer to the Boston area. So that's probably what you're seeing.
Okay.
What happens with all of these bids that we go out for, we pre-qualify the suppliers. We only deal with the suppliers that can handle aggregations, do it properly from not only a financial point of view, but also a customer service point of view. There were 4 bids for Arlington. I believe there were 4 bids. And Dynegy had the most advantageous bid. And that's why they were chosen.
A couple other questions about Dynegy. They own a number of coal-fired plants. Will we be acquiring that coal-fired generation as well?
They do have some generation here in Massachusetts. I believe most of it is oil-fired. They may have a couple of older coal-fired plants, and essentially some of that energy would come from those plants.
No.
I thought Brayton Point, which was the last coal-fired plant in Massachusetts, shut down. Like within the last 2 weeks.
But we're talking about all of New England, correct? Everything that goes into the grid.
There's very few coal plants. I don't even think I can think of a coal plant in New England, but maybe John's looking it up. They certainly could own coal plants in other regions of the country, and if it's like in the Mid-Atlantic, it's virtually impossible to import their power into New England. If they had it in eastern New York, they potentially could. If they had it in Quebec, they potentially could. Go ahead.
Right now in the New England ISO, which is the company that runs the whole New England grid, we have about 2% of the electricity being generated by coal.
Can you tell me where you're getting that information? Because I tried to get the energy disclosure label for Dynegy today. I called them up. They were absolutely clueless. They couldn't tell. They didn't even know what it was.
Well, the program hasn't started yet.
So we don't know what the different amounts are, do we?
I have an app from New England, ISO New England, that tells you every minute of the day what the real-time generation is. And right now, you've got about 59% from natural gas, about 28% from nuclear, 6% from renewables, about 2% from coal, and the rest of it's hydro.
But you're looking at what's called system power, correct? What about known resources? Isn't that what distinguishes one supplier from another?
So I think I hear what you're worried about, and I know that you'll probably correct me on a few points, but you're worried that the electron supply that we're purchasing might have like more coal in it or more dirty energy than maybe what you're getting right now. Like getting a lot of natural gas right now, nuclear, and the option of the electrons, where we buy the electrons, because electrons and RECs are separate, might be coming from coal plants and things like that. You're right that Dynegy should be able to provide you with a disclosure label. I'll try to check into that, or we'll try to check into that, because the state of Massachusetts does require disclosure labels. So we can check into that for you, one. But two, I will say, and I know this isn't the answer to your question, that while you're adding the Class 1 renewable energy to what you're doing, at the same time you're basically putting funding into trying to bring more renewable energy onto the grid and turn the spigot down on fossil fuels. So that's all I'll say. I don't think it answers your question, because I think we talked last year at the public info session and you had a similar question.
Just one final question. I did some comparison shopping for the companies that the DPU lists on its website. There's one called Ambit Energy that advertises 100% wind renewable at 11.5 cents per kilowatt hour. Now, that's not all Massachusetts, but it was all New England and New York. And I'm wondering, why is this 100% renewable for Arlington better?
Well, I have to see what is exactly in that product. I don't like to comment unless I know, but likely this is better because it's all Class 1, and those other things within that product might actually be some Class 2, might be some existing main hydro, some things that maybe don't need your funding as much. So that's probably what's going on, but I hate to answer without seeing the actual stuff, and I'd be more than happy to look at it with you if you want to.
I just have a quick question. So is there any cancellation fee to terminate the 28 months contract?
She's asking if there's any cancellation fee if you want to opt out.
There's no early termination or cancellation fees if you want to opt out of the program.
Oh, no, I was asking, once you enroll the program, when you are in the 20 years months contractor, is there any cancellation fee to stop in the middle?
So if you don't opt out during the opt-out period, let's say you go 6 months in the program and then you opt out, is there any cancellation fee?
The under the law, there's a formal 30-day opt-out period that goes from the time you get your letter to 30 days. Any time after that, Good Energy lets you out of the program without any termination fees.
Thank you. I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm not sure, so let me ask it. If, let's say I opt for 100%, opt up to 100% renewables, and my neighbor is at 5%, during brownout periods, am I any more susceptible?
No.
Okay.
Do you know what the renewable percentage is from Eversource at this time?
12% at this time, and it'll go up to 13% next year.
compared to 5%?
Oh, that's Arlington's option at the very top. Eversource is at the very bottom. And it says 0% because this chart is telling you how much is added in addition to what the state requires. The state requires 12, so that's what Eversource has. Good question.
Right now, Eversource is at 12%. I thought you just quoted something like 6% for the region or something like that. Did I hear that little chart you had? So why is there such a disparity between Eversource and that chart that he just claimed?
That's an excellent question. Why is there a disparity between what's on the grid now and the percentage they have to buy? It's because what actually is coming onto the grid is variable at any given time. Sometimes it's more than 12% that's on the grid. Sometimes it's less, but it's the RECs. The RECs are generated separately, and they're traded actually a little later than they're generated. So it's the RECs that cover that 12%. So they make sure they buy 12% of your energy worth of RECs, which represents power that's been on the grid in the form of 12% of your electricity.
Well, my question has to do with the financial stability of DiEnergy, because they've had hard times lately after coming out of bankruptcy, and how comfortable everybody feels if the worst happens and during the 28 months they aren't able to fill their side of the contract.
The bankruptcy that you're referring to was a subsidiary of DiEnergy. It's not the division of DiEnergy we're dealing with for the aggregation. DiEnergy is licensed by the Department of Public Utilities here in Massachusetts. They wouldn't be licensed if their financial standing wasn't up to what the state requires.
Small question, but just the fine print. I thought when I looked online, it's somebody under frequently asked questions. There was a thing about, is there an administrative fee charged for any of this? And it said no. And then here on the letter we got, it said administrative adders for all of Arlington programs. I know this is teeny weeny stuff, but it says these fees are 0.001 kilowatt for the aggregation consultant, and then something for the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission. It's just, this is small, but I just wanted to be sure these little administrative fees are there, and it adds a teeny weeny bit to the cost.
Yeah, those fees are paid by the competitive supplier to Massachusetts Metropolitan Area Planning Council and to us as the consultant. So
that comes out of our rate. That's part of the rate.
It's part of the rate.
So this question might be off topic, but I basically want to know who I should be pointed to. So this is about the electric bill, and there's a separate issue of going green. And so my question is, if I have solar panels on my roof, photovoltaic ones can't be more than 30% efficient, whereas solar hot water is 80% efficient. So, and that would let me use less electricity to begin with. So conservation is a separate question. Who, once we're done, who should I start talking to about this?
Related to the solar or related to the energy efficiency? On energy efficiency, I can talk to you. I can certainly start talking to you for sure. But if you haven't connected with Mass Save, let me help you do that. They will help you make energy efficiency improvements. They will also help you finance things like solar hot water. We're Mass Energy. We're different. Mass Save is the utilities energy efficiency program. We're a separate nonprofit. No, there's a lot of Mass somethings.
Hi. So
I didn't receive a letter, so I assume I didn't receive a letter is because I have another provider with Eversource, correct? I have Verdi right now. I have to look at my contract to see. I believe I started in August last year, but I have to check. Now, if it's past, if I started like October or November, I need to opt out of this program until my contract is over with Verde, and then if I want to come into your program, notify you? That's my first question.
The information we get from Eversource is supposed to be just those customers who are on the basic service. Once in a while, that gets disturbed. Now, do you already have a contract with someone?
Yes.
And did you receive a letter?
No.
Okay.
The only...
Then that's right. Now, read your contract very carefully.
Right.
And if again, we don't encourage people to get out of their contracts that they're already in. Some of these contracts have very heavy termination fees. Okay. Others don't. So, it would be your choice if it doesn't have a heavy termination fee that you might want to come into the program earlier than at the expiration of your contract.
So once, say, my contract is up, can I then notify you and say I want to go?
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. The other question is these rates that I see, 10, 11, 13, are those, whatever program I choose, is that what I'll be locked in for 2 years, right?
New customers that come into the program, okay, will be locked in at the contract rate for the remainder of the program that they have.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So these rates are for 18 months, right? Come 18 months, if the rates change and we want to opt up or down, are there fees associated? And how far in advance will we be notified of what the new rates are going to be before that bill comes?
The contract is for 28 months. The renewable part that we've contracted for with Mass Energy is for 18 of those months. We're not expecting a major change in the price for the remaining 10 months. There might be a slight difference, and that will certainly be told to you at the time.
So whether it's a credit or a increase, we'll be notified and our bills will be adjusted accordingly?
Yes, you'll be notified.
So essentially that price is locked in for 18 months, not 28?
The renewable portion of it is locked in for 18. The program is for 28. There may be a slight change in price after 18 months, but we're not expecting a major change.
And then are there fees associated with opting up or down throughout the program?
Are there fees associated with opting up or down during the program duration?
No.
Really quickly, just if there is a slight price change in the renewable energy part, it would affect all three of the rates, but very slightly. And just to something else you said, if you are in this program, if you do nothing now and you're enrolled in the standard Arlington Local Green, you can choose to opt up any time, like in 10 months if you want to, by calling Dynegy. Maybe it becomes more financially feasible for you next year. You can call Dynegy and opt up then.
The local green, which is 5%, that's actually 17% renewable. Okay, The 50%, is that 50% or 62%? And you're not going to tell me that the 100% is 112%, are you?
Yes, because Mass Energy is going to buy, Mass Energy is going to buy, so the supplier is going to make sure there's 12% in whatever you have, because they have to by law, and then Mass Energy is going to go out and buy either 5% on your behalf if you do nothing, or if you choose 50, we'll buy 50% more. If you choose 100, we'll buy 100% more. So if you do choose 100, you'll be helping somebody else go a little bit green, because you'll be essentially matching 112% of your electricity with renewables. So that's like you doing somebody else a little bit of a favor. The grid, really, all of us.
Okay, I'm sorry, but I came in late because I was at a little meeting that was at the senior center with a representative that knows Erin. I'm a little confused. So if I repeat myself and everyone else kind of knows what's going on, I apologize. Okay, so I got a letter in the mail. I got a flyer today. My understanding is the whole town is enrolled in the Arlington Local Green Program because that's been decided by the town. As a resident, I have an option to decide to go back to Eversource. At what point in time can I do that if I want to? And maybe I want to wait a little longer because I don't know how the program is going to work. So that's where I'm a little bit confused at right now.
Okay, essentially, if you do nothing, you'll be in the 5% additional renewal. If you want to stay with Eversource now, you can mail in your opt-out card, okay? If you want one of the other options, you call Dynergy, okay? Now, if at some time, let's say 6 months down the road, you start off in the 5% program and you want to go to Eversource, you would call Dynergy and say, hey, put me back to Eversource, and they would do that. And no penalty, no cancellation fee.
Okay, so repeat that again, within a what period of time? If I could go back to Eversource without penalties?
No, any time you want.
Oh, any time whatsoever?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, my other question is, I feel that this is very informative, but from the population that is here, I don't know how the other residents are going to be made aware of their choices other than what they received in the mail. So will you be having another informational session before August 1st or not?
Ask Adam. Adam, what are your plans?
So we'll be doing another information session at the senior center. Actually, two. One during the day on July 13th and one in the evening on July 13th.
And you're calling people and sending emails?
Yeah, we issued a town-wide phone call. We'll continue to send out emails to the town email list. We'll continue to put it on the website. ACMI will broadcast information. So we will keep pushing out information.
You can talk to your neighbors about it. There's nothing better than that.
All right.
There was a mention of Mass Save, which is a conservation program supported in part by Eversource. If we walk away from Eversource, are we cut out of Mass Save?
Nope. Nope, because you're not really walking away from Eversource. Eversource is the utility. They do almost everything for you except that little electron contract. So there's charges on the bill related to the Mass Save program that you will continue to pay.
Okay. Second question. When a house is sold, if it's part of this aggregation, is the new owner automatically in the aggregation or is he automatically out?
What happens with any new resident that comes into town, somebody that buys a house in town, okay, they start off in the basic program of Eversource. they will get a letter that says, hey, the town is doing an aggregation program. If you want to come into it, you can. So that's what happens with new people.
Third question had to do with your ISO thing. Mentioned that 2% of the power is nuclear. Is nuclear not considered renewable?
No, I didn't say 2%. It was about 28%.
Nuclear?
Right now is generated with nuclear power.
There's no renewable portfolio standard in New England that considers nuclear renewable power.
Okay. Is the nuclear Seabrook? Because I know the one in
Yes.
Massachusetts is closed.
Seabrook is a
Seabrook the only
nuclear
one there?
Pilgrim.
Pilgrim's closed.
No,
Yankee
Pilgrim
Atomic was
is
closed.
still, well, Pilgrim's down, but it's still open. I mean, it's going to be closed, yes, permanently.
All right. Any other questions? Oh, sorry. Thank you.
I have a question. Is this working? Can you hear me? A little closer? Okay. I can't hear it here. I'm confused. I came knowing nothing. I'm looking at this and thinking, what is the impetus for these plans to have been furthered? Is it just the nonprofit groups that have come with a plan that can help the companies to be more involved with the global warming, et cetera? And that's all I'm getting out of this. And we sign up for it, but if the Eversources and others, if they decide that it's not in their plan to make money, what is saying that it'll be, will they still have the ability to cover all of excess money they have to put in to do all the recs, et cetera, to just keep building up our bills, which doesn't that, hurt the idea of this whole progress, this whole program? I'm just really confused as to why it's going to have to stay the way we think we're doing this, and we're signing into something that may not have any ability for some impetus behind the companies for doing the 28.
Do you mean like influencing Eversource? Like, do you mean like Eversource is going to do whatever's profitable no matter what we do?
Right, they've done it before, which is understandable.
Yeah, well, so Eversource responds mostly to state policy, and our lawmakers respond to us. So when they see communities like us doing this, it does send a message, and our representatives do act accordingly. We do have really great policy in this state, and it's getting better. Right now, there's a bill being discussed to double the amount of increase in the renewable portfolio standard. So that means Eversource has to buy 12% renewable energy on your behalf this year, and it goes up to 13% next year, but we want it instead to go up by 2, so go up to 14 and then 16. So as long as we continue to push, we continue to make statements like the one we're making in Arlington, we will make a difference. And so I think what we're doing here is really important to address the concern that you have.
And the other question that I have is that the companies being somehow the companies be. Can you hear it now? Can you hear it now? Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Having to be able to prove that they have done exactly what you think they've done. If there's no mandate that they have to show that on our bill, then how do we know they're doing any of what we're saying?
So There is what in New England, for the New England Power Pool, there's something called the Generation Information System. And it literally tracks every megawatt hour of energy produced and what is the fuel associated with those megawatt hours. At the end of the year, so you have to deliver 12%, and per this agreement, if you do the default, an extra 5% from mass energy, and that has to be retired. That goes into an account. The Generation Information System then sends that information to the Department of Energy Resources. The Department of Energy Resources then verifies whether Eversource met their 12% goal or Dynegy met their 12% goal. And in the case of Mass Energy, whether they met their 5% additional goal or the 50% additional goal or 100% additional goal. So that there is a check to make sure that everybody that purports to do something actually does it. And if they don't, then they get charged with this alternative compliance payment, and that's 7 cents a kilowatt hour instead of they could have bought RECs for 2 cents a kilowatt hour. So everybody who says they're going to do it has the incentive to do it, or else they get penalized.
Just one little side. Do they have to let the public know just what you're talking about, or do they just keep it all in paper and send you one sentence that yes, we did what we were supposed to, which says nothing?
So there are annual reports distributed by the Department of Energy Resources.
To who?
Well, like what?
To who? To the public? How is
it's published on a website, and and any layperson that wasn't in the energy industry wouldn't know where to look. But there are plenty of people in the energy industry that look through this stuff and know what's going on. So it is generally available. It's available to everyone. Maybe perhaps I can work with Good Energy and add that to an FAQ, a frequently asked question, so other people can have a direct link to it, this annual report.
Yeah, I think we, as a public who are involved in this, should have the information accessible and not just saying that, okay, well, you can sit there and spend 3 days trying to find someone who can give you this information.
Yep,
So,
you make a great point, and I also will say
thank
that
you.
part of this, part of what's wonderful about this process is that our town government is involved with it, and they have a vested interest in making sure that their residents get what is promised. So if we didn't get what was promised, I don't think the town would repeat the process, or they might be able to let one of the contracted parties go or something like that. But the town can find those records. We do have an energy manager. We have people who know about this stuff who watch it on behalf of you guys. But you make a great point that, that information is hard to find for the public, even though it is public. So hopefully we'll try to make some of it more available.
As the consultant that put this whole thing together, it's certainly in our best interest to make sure that everything is done according to contract.
I just had one quick question. It seems like it's a fairly low percentage of renewable energy still. And I was wondering, is there anything I can do or people can do to really jack it up so really makes a serious impact on what's going on here?
You can opt up, and you can talk to your town meeting members and your town officials and make sure that when this comes around again, that we think about upping that 5%. Like when we have the option to renew this program, if we decide to, that we up the 5% to higher percentage renewable energy. And over time, the price of renewable energy certificates might change. It might be lower, and we might be able to do more and still offer a good competitive price.
Because it's available. More is available if they want to use it, right? So
It is.
That would bring the price down.
Yep. You can opt up,
I'll-
and we encourage you to opt up if you can, and to tell your friends about it, because a lot of people are going to get this letter and they're not going to understand it. So if those of you in this room feel like you could chat with your friends about it, and Arlington does have a website, arlingtoncca.com, that you can look at, and I know that there's numbers on there for parties who will answer your questions. I live in town. I'm more than happy to talk to you. If you want to talk to me, come talk to me afterwards. There is a question over here.
Yeah, we have a couple other questions if you want to wait a minute.
Did Eversource bid on this contract, and how did they come out, and why don't they want to keep us as customers?
No, Eversource didn't bid on this contract. They can't bid on it. It goes to competitive suppliers.
Yeah, they have a monopoly on the other parts of your electric bill, and that's how they make their money, and they're required by law to allow this to happen. So they can't fight it because the regulations say that it can happen, and they do make their money in other ways by being kind of the distributor of electricity.
So.
So there's one like foundational item which I think we could have brought up really earlier that might have reassured people, is that 1997 when we had this big restructuring law that included municipal aggregation, it also forced the electric utilities to sell off their generation. So they are no longer making money off of generation. They're just a pass-through entity. They literally nothing. The electrons move through their wires, but they don't own the generators that actually produce the electricity. So they have no skin in the game about who your electric supplier is. All things being equal, they probably prefer people to be on competitive supply, but it makes very, very little difference to them, if it makes any difference to them at all.
What will happen after a 28-month term finish ends? We go to the old plan, or what happened?
There'll be a new competitive bid, and the town again will pick a competitive supplier for another contract length and another amount of renewable energy, however they want to do it at that point in time.
So we're going to go for a new plan.
There'll be a new competitive bid. It'll be put out to energy suppliers again, and the best bid will be chosen by the town.
Okay.
So earlier tonight, when somebody asked about the mix of energy, and you said it's about 60% gas now, almost 30 nuclear, etc. I presume that's because the wind's not blowing hard and the sun's not shining. In the day, I'm assuming there'd be solar in the mix. The renewables would be bigger. And is there any point, any day of the year or any time of day when the renewables go over 100?
No. Not close at all.
I'm going to take one last question here.
More than one question. First question is, I was surprised that you create this form that no action required to join something. Looks like completely illegal action you guys doing, because I just arrived in my house and I see this paper looks very sleazy to me. It's not professional and so on. So if you didn't react to it, we're going to send you in. How legally are you going to defend this?
The law is structured as an opt-out program, and that's why you got the letter you got.
Yes, but this is very sleazy way of try to sneak something, because I just opened the paper. If I will not arrive today, I will arrive tomorrow. I'll be signed in without even understanding what you guys sending me. Correct?
Actually, you can opt out of it at any time, and that letter goes out at least 30 days in advance of any change for you. So all you got to do is check the card if you don't want to be in the program and send it back. And if you don't do that now, you can do it later if you want to. You can leave. But the reason that it is an opt-in, opt-out is because if we didn't have the community buying power of most of the residents in Arlington, we wouldn't be able to get you a good price. So we use the community buying power to get the better price. We notify residents about it, and residents can leave if they want to. So you did open the letter, that was the intention, and you can leave if you want to.
I know, but I said it's legally challenged in the software company. They were doing the same. By signing in, they already say you're going to be publicly, your information will be sent to public, and nobody, it was challenged in court that you cannot do this to the people.
So you missed the beginning of the presentation, but in 1997, the Commonwealth Commonwealth of Massachusetts passed a law which allowed for municipal opt-out aggregation. And it had to go through a lot of processes. It had to be approved at town meeting. It had to be approved by the selectmen. It had to get vetted by the town manager. And then finally, after all those milestones, and it had to be approved by the Massachusetts Department of Public Utilities. And after all those milestones were reached, a contract was put into, and you got that letter about opting out. It's all legal. You know, whether you might not like it, and we understand.
No, but
nobody likes every law. But that
no, it's not issue
legal.
of law. You're just sticking me into some contract without my permission.
No, it's you are able to but that's the way the law is written.
So I'll just to my name's Adam Chaplin. I'm the town manager. I'll say I definitely bristle at calling it illegal. It's not illegal.
It is illegal. It was challenged in the court. When Google was doing this, it's challenged in the court. When Microsoft was doing this to people, and Amazon Now was doing it to the people, challenged in the court, they lost.
So those are internet companies. This isn't electrical.
A lot of services, they change the rules. Say if you want to opt, you have to notify us. Well, of course, people ignore it. So all of a sudden, they said information about people, and that's it. In court, they lost. You cannot do this. You cannot sign somebody to some obligations without their permission. It's the only one illegal organization like this is Credit Bureau, which is spying on you without your permission.
So I think to some degree, though, you've answered your own question. It is certainly legal. It's been through a very well-vetted legal process, and this is a totally different situation than what you're describing. This is allowed by state law. It is not illegal, and you have the opportunity to opt out if you don't think it's a beneficial program. So you're not.
Do you have more programs like this, where you just sneaking this? If you don't know about it or you don't sign out, you will be forced to pay bigger taxes or do something else?
I don't know that there's another. There's not another program similar that I can think of.
I'm sad. I'm sorry that you feel that way. I understand we can't change your feelings about it, but if there's more we can do to help you opt out of the program, we're all here and we'll help you. I will say that I know that the town is doing this for residents. I know that the town actually passed over a bid that they thought was going to cost us more than what you already are getting. The town has really, really looked into this to try to make this a good deal for you, and now they're notifying you how it works, and we're here to answer your questions if you're uncomfortable, and we'll help you opt out if you need help. I mean, you're entitled to your feelings, but it is legal, but we can help you get out of the program if you need help. All three of us up here know how to help you do that. We can check the box together.
All right. So I am going to say we'll cut off the official Q&A. I think we'll stay around here for a few more minutes if you want to ask us any questions. That said, leaving the meeting tonight, if you you have any further questions, call Town Hall. You can call my office. You can call Dynegy. You can call Good Energy. If you have questions about the renewable energy certificates, you can call Mass Energy. So we really want this program to be a success, and we're here to answer any further questions you have after tonight. So thank you.